Hey guys, the Deadmines rares have been released, and I just want to go and review some of these new cards for rares. I'm going to be continuing using the very simple garbage, pretty decent or broken scale. It's just simpler, so not gonna. I'll maybe talk about some of the complexities, but I'll just go into the cards and tell you guys what I think of them. So first we got Parlay. Swap this for a card in your opponent's deck. This is kind of like Weasel Tunneler. The Weasel keeps going in and back, but it's a spell. But and you get their card, so you could steal their card, which is kind of cool. That being said, this is terrible. I don't, it's just like unless you could figure out a way to draw 1,000 cards and just keep swapping in. I mean, Weasel Tunneler part was good as you could revive them at Death Rattle, so you would, and it wasn't actually good. It was a fun meme, but this one work. It won't really work for disruption. It's just not efficient enough for the card draw, and it's not like maybe this was swap it for 3 cards or something like that. But and it's rogue only, so it doesn't even really make sense for rogue to be swapping other than style. So this card's garbage. It's cool they're printing disruption, but this is not a good real disruption card. Next we got Doggie Biscuit, tradable. Give a minion +2/+3. After you trade this, give a friendly minion rush. So kind of like a card in Druid, they have a +2/+3. You can use this buff of a minion. That being said, I just don't think this kind of card is efficient enough. And you can use it to give stuff rush, but I just don't think that's going to matter. But maybe if there's some one thing, if there's some death rattle, a hunter archetype, maybe someone can make it work. But overall, I just don't think this card's going to win out over cards like Broom, or just like Adorable Infestation, which I think are just much better cards. So I'm going to give this garbage. Next, we got Jerry Carpenter. Draw a choose one spell, split it. And this looks like a very solid card. You can choose one. And let me just go and take a look real quick at some of the choose one spells, and we can talk about how good is this really, and to see like if this is useful in the current, because I think this is a really cool card. It's definitely pretty decent. Will it be broken? So let's look at some of the Druid choose one cards in standard. I'm sure this could be cool and wild, though, even though it might not make the cut for wild. So yeah. So here we go. We got Sow the Soil. Not that like that could be okay. Actually, in a token deck, you do this and then you can do +1 for this. Power the Wild. You don't even want the 3/2 Panther. It's just kind of a backup. This one is a little. This one will be weird because of the corrupt do both element, but still just not that efficient. So you can see part of the problem, even though you can use Nourish, is not gonna lie, choose one cards are terrible right now. So I think at the end of the day, I still think this card's a good card, but the choose one in current Druid set isn't really cutting it. So I think this card's gonna be bad initially, but maybe some more choose one, some premium choose one cards, and you can tutor out a card, so you can always get a card. So if there's a really powerful choose one card that you always need, you can always draw it, and that's really nice. So I think this card's really good, but I don't see it seeing play initially, unless there's better choose one support later on in the mini set. All right. Next, we got Moonlight Guidance. Discover a copy of a card in your deck. You play this turn, draw the original. I think this is really nice. You can use this with Druid has lots of cheap stuff. You can use it with Lunar Clips and get the Lunar Clips twice. You can use it with just a Lightning Bloom for a bunch of mana swing if you're in a really desperate spot. There's just cool things you can do with this. So, and just the fact that you can tutor out a card as well. So you can play this on 2 just looking for Overgrowth. Like when you really need something. That might be preferable to something like Guess the Weight, which is kind of cycle. This could be, you know, maybe even a better Guess the Weight and subs out, because I think Guess the Weight hasn't been cutting it for a while. You also, John Bray pointed out, I was talking on his stream, you can use it with the Owl, and the Owl, that 7-mana Owl, well, you get it, but it's 0 mana because you played enough spells, and then you can immediately play 2 Owls. So I think this card's really cool. You know, I'm gonna go with Broken, even though, you know, it might not quite make them for Broken. It's more about supplementing your other cards, but I just really like this card, and I could see it really helping out the Druid archetype. So yeah, I think it's real good. Next card we got is Copycat. Add a copy of your opponent's next card you place to your hand. I mean, this is, you know, it does have the 3 mana 3/4 get 1 card, but you know, your opponent can play around that. Your opponent can just give you an intentionally bad card that makes your hand awkward. There's a lot of really annoying things your opponent can do with this that don't make the value. And no, it's not understated at all. So it still just has the 3/3/4. But that being said, you know, like what's this gonna help Priest with? You know, I was saying, like, I think I was talking, like I said, I was talking to John. He's like, oh, you could get the question word. Like, oh, great. Now all your Priest spells have +3 spell damage. That's really going to help. So I think bottom line is this card is garbage. It looks kind of cool. I really like the card animation, but I just don't think this is an actually playable card. And remember, slow value decks are dead. I think they're going to be dead for a long time. I don't think we're going to be seeing slow value decks for years, maybe. So I'm going to be assuming a lot of these cards that are looking to be slow value cards are unplayable in a lot of situations. So next we got Righteous Defense. Set a minion's attack and health to 1. Give the stats it lost to a minion in your hand. So this is, I think this card's really good. This might be the truly first broken card. The Druid card might have this. So you can use this on a Flesh Giant, for example. When it was a Flesh Giant, now it's a 1/1, and you get +8/+8 on a minion in your hand. That's really good. So it's just a really nice control tool. You know, you could use this. You could make sure you only have a Moonfang in your hand, something like that. There's a lot of really cool things you could do with this. It's just kind of a hand buff while it's removal. So, you know, it's it kind of can work as like a Shadow or Death unconditionally. Not as good against like a Death Rattle, but so does her Death, but just lowers all the stats and gives it to your minion. I think this card's broken. This is like, you know, maybe we'll take away the broken from the other Drew card, but this is a truly broken card. Very good card. Next, we got a Blacksmithing Hammer. After you trade this, gain +2 durability. I think this card's really cool, especially because you can tutor it out with like Corsair Catches or the Pirate Quest, and then you just trade it a few times, get 5 durability on it. Now you've got a win condition. You can play Control Warrior, and if you know your opponent isn't a deck that like can, you know, run into oozes, well, you just hit them 5 times in the face, gain a bunch of armor. You know, a lot of times, you know, some of these control archetypes have a hard time finishing them. And so, but yeah, you just, every time you trade, you can run this in cutting class. So I think bottom line is this card just looks very strong overall. It just looks like, you know, you're going to be getting a ridiculous weapon, and you can tutor it out. You know, and it can be a win condition. It can be, I'm going to hit you in the face while controlling the board. And it's, you know, you can say, oh, it's a slower matchup. I don't need all the durability, but maybe it's a certain matchup where you know, really durability it up, and just gain a whole bunch of attacks, or a bunch of charges. You can kill your opponent. Like I said, like you could run 2 Corsair Catchers and only 1 weapon now. So if you draw it, you know, before you draw a weapon, you know, for your Pirate Quest, for example, and you're like, oh, you're kind of screwed if you're just running 1 weapon, but you could just run this as your only weapon. And if you draw it for your Pirate Quest, you could just trade it in. So I think this card is broken. Great card. Really interesting design too. I really like this card. Yeah. Next, we got Deepwater Evoker. Draw a spell, gain armor to its cost. I think people have mixed opinions on this. I think I'm going with pretty decent. It could be broken in the right meta if something changes where it's viable. I know they're trying to make it viable to make big spells, but at the end of the day, it's a stat, draw a card, and gain armor, which is valuable for mage. So in the current archetypes, I can't really see this seeing play. So it's going to be hard to make an archetype, but I think this is a powerful card. If there was like a Highlander mage out there, they would definitely be running this card. You could draw something like Deep Freeze and gain 8 armor. Like that matters a lot for a mage. Gaining armor is very valuable. So you do this twice in a game, and with a big spell deck, that can be 16 armor for a mage, which can be just game winning. That day it's stats. It doesn't lose value. I think this card's really good. I might put out the broken, but I'm gonna put it pretty decent because it just doesn't quite work in the mage archetype. But I think a very good card overall. So next we got Holebreaker. Draw a spell, battle cry, your hero takes damage at cost. I think we were saying you could tutor out Deck of Chaos and then you'll lose even with Deck of Chaos. But I think this card it's just very efficient. And you can use it you could just run things like Raise Dead and like not a lot of spells, and then you Raise Dead this and get this even more. So you can get a huge amount of draw from this with Raise Dead. Amazing synergy with Raise Dead. So I think this card's really good. I haven't quite figured out what the deck is this, but and Warlock does already have good card draw, but this makes much more sense than like Backfire in a Zoo deck. So I think this card's really good. I'm gonna go with pretty decent. I can't quite see the broken, so it could definitely be on broken. It's kind of on the line, but I think this card could definitely be a archetype enabling. So let's go with broken. Let's have a little fun. So I think this card could definitely be broken. But will it be enough to carry? I don't think this card makes much sense in like my current handlock style of Warlock, but I think in some of the Zoo styles, maybe with Quest, maybe not with Quest, just being able to draw that extra amount can make a big difference. So. Next we got Multicaster. Draw a spell for each spell you cost this game. And we're talking, I think like this can make a lot of sense in classes, particularly Shaman, Quest Shaman that often struggles for card draw. You play this if you play an Arcane spell, a Perpetual Flame, and a Devolving, or the Devolving Missile, like a nature spell, like a Lightning Bolt. And that's drawing 3 cards, and that's a lot. And I think it's a little bit awkward to get off, but I think a class that struggles for card draw really likes this. So nothing crazy. You still have to have the preconditions, but I think this is pretty decent. Especially a neutral card draw that a class that struggles with it. Now realistically, classes struggle with card draw usually just suck, but it's just a thing of I think this could definitely be very playable. So next we got Sucker Hooker. At the end of your turn, transform this into weapon into one that costs 1 more. I think this is could be quite solid. It just looks but it's really weird. Because you're transforming your weapon, so you can use it to get better and better charges. It's a good stat line, but it's hard for me to evaluate. Good stat line. I'm gonna go with it's very hard to make a deck that makes this work. But the overall effect is this. So like I don't see this card really working. But like for example, let's say there's just one really good weapon in the meta right now, and it happens to be 6 mana. You play a 5 mana weapon, you evolve it. There's things you can do, and 4 mana weapons tend to be really good. So you could do it on just you play your 3 mana weapon, then you play this and make it a 4 mana weapon. So this might be good enough. I don't know, but I think it's a cool effect, and I think it definitely has some potential. So I'm gonna go with pretty decent. Next, we got Arcane Overflow. Deal 5 damage to a minion. Summon a remnant at 6 cost. So you can use it to make a big stat minion kill something. Seems okay, but I just think the more you think about like mage, first of all, like often doesn't have many minions, so you put something big on the board, their opponent probably has a good chance of dealing with it. Your opponent, so it just doesn't really make sense. This card, I think you're just putting a big plunk of stats on the board while removing something. But I think just overall, this is 5 mana. 5 mana you need to do a lot with in Hearthstone in 2021. So I think this, at the end of the day, this is not a good card. I think this is garbage. So. Next, we got Wealth Redistributor. Battlecry, swap the attack of the highest and lowest attack minion. So this is really interesting. You can use it if this is the lowest attack minion to steal, something, like from a flesh giant. You could have like a one attack minion on board and use it. So this is, I think this is a really interesting card. I still haven't quite figured out if it's good or not. It is 5 mana, but it does have taunt. So figuring out, I think in the world of, OTKs, this still doesn't make the cut, but I think this card is cool and has a lot of potential overall. So, it's weird when you get, like, right now we're in such a meta that, like, minions and board just doesn't make the cut. But that being said, I think this card is pretty decent, even though I don't quite see it seeing play immediately. It's just, it can do some cool things. You could have a one attack minion, steal for the flesh giant, go face, or even your own minion. So what you also could do is if you have a low attack minion, a high attack minion, you attack with your high attack minion, and then you play this and you load the attack minion, and you get more damage. So there's just some cool stuff you could do, and it's got a big taunt. So I'm gonna go with pretty decent. I'm not convinced this is broken, but it's a cool card, a cool effect. I think it has some definite potential. And finally, we got Proving Ground. Summon 2 minions from your deck. They fight. This is for Demon Hunter. I guess it's supposed to be for, the big Demon Hunter archetype where you can get things out a little bit earlier. Pull from, if you've got some Death Rattle stuff. Bottom line, I mean, if you have all Death Rattle stuff, like running a bunch of clunky stuff, like the big warrior, which just summons the minion practically, and it has the 6/2. That looks like a lot better. I think the build around this card, I can't spin any way that this card is anything other than garbage. All these cards never work, and they have to, unless they're cheaper and better. You're gonna have 2 minions. That means you have to run a lot of big cards because you're gonna be pulling out 2. So if you draw 3, unless maybe the main thing is you get it to exactly 1, so you just summon 1. But I can't spin this in a way that it's anything other than garbage. So really bad card. But yeah, so that's what we got for the rares today. Hope you guys like that, and we'll have epics and legendaries coming out shortly. So thank you guys.